Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting a like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from the Drunken Otter from the True Off My Chest subreddit. And it does have some trigger warnings within the story. Suicide, suicidal ideation, bullying, depression, and PTSD. So if you do want to skip the story, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. And the title is, I, 21 male, got a friend request from my dead ex-girlfriend, 21 female. In 8th grade, I met this girl, North. She was in my band class and the two of us hit it off. I asked her out on a movie date and from there we became boyfriend and girlfriend. She was my first girlfriend and things were going alright. That was until her dad got a new job across the country in California. North moved away, but we decided to try out long distance dating through our freshman year. We were not built for long distance dating. I couldn't protect her from bullies, hug her when she was crying, or tell her it was going to be alright when she told me about her depression. We got into arguments about God knows what, but decided to keep the relationship going because her dad was trying to transfer back closer to our hometown. That was until she stopped texting me around Christmas, and her sister sent me a funeral program and asked me to go to California. North's sister told me that she took her own life because the bullying was getting too much and that I wasn't there for her when she needed me. It broke my heart that I couldn't go to California for the funeral, and for the past 8 years, I've mourned her loss. I spent the entirety of my high school career trying to rebuild myself from all the damages. I went to meetings for people who have lost family members and loved ones. I went to therapy for 4 years and to try and help process the loss. I had to learn how to become dependable because I didn't want it to happen again. And after working on myself for 4 years, I asked out one of my classmates, Lucy. We started dating the tail end of our senior and are about to celebrate our 4-year anniversary in April. Last night, I got a notification from Facebook saying that I got a new friend request. I opened the app and found out that it was from North. She looks older, but it's undeniable that there are pictures of her as an adult with her fiance and a newborn daughter. I spent 8 years of my life believing that she was dead. But here she is with undeniable proof that she's been living a great life without me. My stomach is in knots, my heart is sinking to the ground, and my mind is racing trying to figure out what happened and what I should do. Do I accept the friend request? Do I ignore it and try to move on? I feel completely lost, and I feel like my entire life has been a lie. I spent the entire night looking at pictures of her and her family, floored that she would do this to me. I think it's always very difficult with these type of stories with the question, do I accept the friend request? Do I ignore it and try to move on? I think that's an always personal thing about how you're going to feel after it, and only you know that. For myself, and look, I don't think I could ever be friends with this person or trust this person or want anything else to do with this person, but I'd be curious about what they had to say. Just from my point of view, I'm not saying OP should do that, but I know myself, I'd need that sort of closure if you like. But what she did to you, what she put you through is incredibly cruel. Whether she did it out of fear, immaturity, or something else, to fake her death and then leave you in the dark about it is just downright cruel. I'm trying to think of the reasons why she did this. I know there's no excuse for it or anything like that, but just for my own mind, I'm trying to think of why. Like, was it due to the bullying or depression or anything like that? And if she was willing to lie about her own death, what else was she capable of? Which might be harsh to say, but it's popping in my head. Or was this all just an excuse to break up with OP in some twisted kind of way? But in the end, I think you have to remember that you don't owe her anything. Whether that be closure, forgiveness, or even a response. I'd lean on Lucy and tell Lucy about the problem as well because, it could cause potential issues for you. But you deserve peace, and whatever you decide to do, make sure it's for you and not for her. The first commenter says, whatever you do, please discuss this with your current girlfriend as well. She will likely feel betrayed if you take up contact with an ex from which you never got closure without telling her. That being said, I would accept the request and ask her about the fake funeral and everything. You have a right to know. Opie says, Jesus, I didn't even think about how to talk to Lucy about this. I know I need to tell her, but I don't even know how to bring this up. Another commenter says, this is your present. Don't ruin it or hurt someone chasing a relationship with a scammer or AI. Opie says it's not AI. The account is friends with all the members of her family, her dad, stepmom, sisters, etc. This is actually her. A commenter says, might the sister have done it without North's knowledge? Opie says North was the one to stop texting me first. I don't see a world where she ghosts me and her sister just so happens to send her regards. A commenter says, so I don't know if it's the healthiest option, but I would 100% want closure. Accept the friend request and send her a message saying how happy you are to see that she's alive, since you were under the impression she committed suicide. How thankful you are that it was a lie and that you're happy she's clearly in a better place. Don't accuse her of anything. If you feel inclined, let her know that her death led you to dedicating a part of your life to being the person you felt she needed at the time. Let her apologize if she does. Don't feel inclined to accept it, and feel free to let her know she caused a lot of hurt. I wouldn't engage beyond finding closure, and I would 100% block her after getting it. Opie says, I do want closure, but I don't want to chase it with how stirred up I am right now. I don't know if I'm happy that North's alive. Don't get me wrong, I don't wish death upon her, but I feel upset that she would do that. I dedicated a third of my life to her, and now that dedication feels like it's been ripped from underneath me. A part of me is happy that she's alive, but I'm also angry, devastated and heartbroken that I wasn't the person she could simply talk to. That I was such a little shit that it was easier to fake her death than it was to break up with me. But also so much has changed for me coming from this. I'm happy with how my life is turning out, but so much of that came from wanting to do right by a memory. And now it's just, I don't know what it is, but I know it sucks. A commenter says, that is wild. I'm so sorry to hear it. Have you ever Googled her name in those 8 years, and did nothing about her ever come up? Did you follow her on any social media at the time you were together? And did all those accounts simply stop updating? Did those accounts have an in memoriam post or anything like that? Opie says, she's always been coming and going with social media. She'd make an account, stop posting for 6 months and make a new one whenever she wanted to restart. I've tried Googling her, but she shares a name with a UCLA professor, so UCLA is the only thing that comes up for miles of scrolling. So Opie comes in with their first update, and this is where the first warning of thoughts of suicide comes into it. So just to let you know, thank you to all who have responded. I want to get to each and every one of you, but for now I hope this update will do. For now I've decided to wait until Lucy gets home from work before I make any decision on whether or not to accept the friend request. I want to know what she thinks, and I can always depend on her to keep me level-headed. But until then, I just kind of want to sort out my feelings. I remember the day that I found out about North's supposed death. It was a few days before Christmas and the snow started to hit the ground. I remember walking to the edge of the neighborhood along the main street. I sat in the sidewalk, watching the cars, thinking about how if I walked onto the road, they wouldn't be able to stop. I was sitting there on the sidewalk contemplating for what felt like hours. It was there I decided I wanted to keep living. It was the most important choice of my life. But now that choice feels hollow. It feels meaningless. Every decision I've made since then has come from that choice I made 8 years ago. And now it feels empty and without promise. I keep you guys updated on what Lucy and I decide. Please don't think for a second I plan to do anything drastic. I really don't. And I want to keep making that choice to live. But for now, I just need to figure out my meaning. OP sometime later comes in with another update and says, I accepted the friend request. After Lucy and I talked about it, we agreed that the possibility of getting some of the closure would be worth it. So I accepted the friend request and sent out a text saying hello. About a half hour later, I received a notification that North responded. We started talking a bit, talking about how our lives have been. Turns out her and her fiance were in town visiting family, and it started to make her think about all the hurt she cost me, and that she wouldn't feel comfortable moving on with our relationship without knowing if I was okay. She tried to apologize, saying that we were dumb kids and that it seemed easier to ghost me instead of breaking up with me. She told me all about how in some messed up teenager way, she thought giving me an explanation to her ghosting me would make it easier to move on. And so her and her sister concocted the whole story. I told her about the years of therapy, the years of loneliness and how guilty I felt when I started dating again. I told her about how I used to think she was the one for me, even through the nights of arguing, and that she left me more hurt than if she just threw me away. And I told her that in some weird way, I'm thankful to her. Her death changed me for the better, and I would not be the man I am today if it wasn't for her. I then text, having said that, I will not accept your apology. It's a shallow attempt to free your guilty conscience before you get married. If you were really sorry, you would have said something sooner. You would have apologized sooner, or would have not done it at all. You took the coward's way out, and I do not forgive cowards. She said she understood, but hoped that one day I could move past the hurt she caused me and find it in my heart to forgive her. I took screenshots of the whole conversation and sent it to her fiancé. I don't know if he knows the story between me and her, but now he can have enough of an idea that they can start that conversation. Hope they can figure out how to move past it. After all, they look very happy together, and the mistakes of a teenager should not affect their current life. However, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a part of me hoping it crashes and burns. I know this is not the update some of you guys wanted. Some of you really wanted me to bully my way through the conversation or play mind games to fuck with her. But that is not who I am. Nor is it who I want to be. On the bright side, I can now truly move on from the relationship that cost me 8 years of my life and put the whole story of North behind me. Thank you to everyone who helped me find the courage to face this head on. Thank you to everyone who sent kind words, and thank you to the guy who DM'd me the number to suicide hotline. I won't need it for the foreseeable future, but I appreciate it nonetheless. And there was some back and forth after this one about sending the screenshots to the partner. Some people saying that it was a great move to do that, other people saying it feels a bit vindictive to do that, and others saying to that, how can you blame him after what he's been through? He's been on the very edge. But after that, all I can say is I really wish OP all the best going forward, and I hope you continue to heal after that. And what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Grandeur, who says, I, 43 male, found a used condom in the bin that my wife, 43 female, and I have in our bedroom. We have not used a condom in the last decade, and I have no idea what I should do now. So, I was taking a nap yesterday in the bedroom when I heard my daughter quietly walking in and asking me if I can give her some money so she can go out with some friends of hers. So I do that, and on her way out, I still don't know how she managed to do it, but she kicked the small bin that my wife and I have in the bedroom. We use it mostly to throw away small things that we are too lazy to get to the trash. I was rather annoyed at getting my sleep disturbed, so I told my daughter to leave it and that I will pick it up. She walks out of the room and I carry on with my sleep. I wake up a few hours later and I notice that the bin is kicked over and that some of its contents spilt out. I start cleaning up when I notice something peculiar. In the pile of papers and napkins, I found a condom. A used condom. My wife and I don't use condoms. I'm pretty sure I've never used one ever since I had a vasectomy after our daughter was born. So the question is, how did one end up here? There is the obvious answer, but I don't know. I keep thinking of different scenarios, but the thought that my wife may have been unfaithful is the first thing that pops into my head, and it's killing me. Maybe I'm just paranoid and there's another explanation, but I don't know how to approach this with her. What should I do about this? How do I start this conversation? I could use some serious help over here. So the first commenter asks, how old is your daughter? Is it possible it's hers? Opie says she is 16, but I don't know if she is sexually active. My wife and I talked with her about sex and how to stay safe, so I guess it's possible. I just don't know when she could have done it, you know. She mostly stays at home and focuses more on her school than social stuff. She barely stays at home alone, and most of the time she has friends over. They are mostly other girls. I don't know. Maybe it's hers, but I have no idea why she'd throw it away in our bin and not the one where we usually throw the trash. Veyron says, if you're up for it, could you give us an update for the resolution? On topic, as mentioned by some others, there's two possibilities. It's either from the activities of your wife or your daughter. Acquiring the truth is paramount here. First, how is your marriage? Do you and your wife argue a lot? Are you intimate often? Not necessarily sex. Have you drifted apart at all? Second, are there periods of time where you and/slash your wife are away from the house? Are there extended times when your daughter can be alone at your house? Has she expressed interest in boys/men that you're aware of? Opie says part of the reason why I said that nothing makes sense is that because my wife and I have good relationship. Nothing out of the ordinary. She's acting like a normal lovey-dovey type when she is around me. We go on dates and do normal things like a normal married couple would do. So it wouldn't make sense for her to cheat. Bayram replies saying, then your wife is the first person you talk to. You are partners after all, and like others have suggested, don't accuse her of anything. Pay attention to the way she speaks and her body language if you can. If nothing seems off, then it comes down to approaching your daughter with your wife at your side. The truth will come out eventually. A commenter says, you never mentioned how old your kids are. They could have used it and tried to dispose of it there instead of their trash, but I mean, probably your wife is screwing someone in your bed. Opie says, I have 3. 2 boys and my daughter that I mentioned. My oldest is 25, but he is living abroad with his wife and barely comes home. The other is 22 and is away for college, and my daughter is 16. She lives at home, and I can agree that maybe it is hers. I have no idea why she'd throw it in our bin. It just doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense since yesterday, and I just don't know what to do. So OP did come in with her update and said, I posted earlier this week about my issue and honestly had no idea it will blow up this much. Something like 500 plus comments on it and 1,400 upvotes. So thanks for that. Also, I expect that not a lot of people that read this post would remember my previous one. I can't update it properly since it's on the sidebar that you can't update locked or removed posts, so I have to post this as a separate submission. If you want to read some of the comments on the previous one, go to my account history and you can find it. The best way I can describe what happened for those that are unfamiliar with the story is that I found a used condom in my bedroom trash can. My wife and I don't use one ever since I had a vasectomy done like 10 years ago, so it didn't come from me. I will admit that the first thing that popped into my head was that infidelity was involved, but like many of the people that commented on my previous post said, it could have also just as easily come from my 16-year-old daughter. That she is a teen and, you know, they're notorious for doing some dumb shit, like having sex in your parents' bed and tossing the condom away in their trash can. It didn't sound plausible at first, mainly because I guess I'm not ready to see my little girl in this light, you know, being sexually active and all that, even though I expect her to be. But after some time has passed and I had time to sit and think, it really would have made more sense for her to do something like this than my wife. I spent the entire next day with my wife. I posted on Tuesday, so this is happening on Wednesday. I had a completely crappy day and my mood was pretty sour, and my wonderful wife picked up on that, and she literally spent the entire day trying to cheer me up. She took me out for lunch at my favorite place, even though she is not really a fan of this restaurant. We played tennis together, even though she doesn't like this sport. She even helped me out with a hobby of mine that I love, and while she doesn't partake in it, she never voiced any disapproval of it. In fact, she encourages it. It's those small things that she does that makes me feel appreciated. They're a reminder to me that my wife really loves and cares about me. That day I realized how much of a fucking idiot I am for even thinking she's capable of hurting me. I felt like an asshole for even considering the idea. So I told her. I told her everything. I told her about the condom and how I felt. The mixture of shock and surprise in her eyes when I told her that I found a used condom in the trash can were genuine, and that was enough for me to know she had nothing to do with it. So I told her that I'm thinking that it came from Kara, our daughter. We were going back and forth when we heard our son coming into the room and saying, I'm sorry. I should point out that the son in question is my middle child. I have an older son that is 25, this one is 22, and my daughter is 16. My wife and I looked at Simon and asked him what he means. My son then went on to explain his story. About a month ago, my son, his brother, and his brother's wife were at home while I was on a business trip, and my wife and Kara were visiting her parents. So one evening, Simon, his brother, and his sister-in-law went out for dinner, and after that decided to go to a club. My oldest son and his wife took off earlier than Simon and came back home while Simon stayed for a little longer. He eventually came home, but he wasn't alone. He picked up a girl at the club and brought her home with him. My son explained that since the bed in his room is a single, that guest bedroom was already occupied by his brother and sister-in-law. He found the next best thing, our bedroom. He did the deed there and tossed the condom away in the trash can. In the morning, he changed the sheets, but he forgot to empty the trash can and the condom remained there. I was really surprised at this, and so was my wife. I honestly expected to have this conversation with my teenage daughter and not with my adult son. My wife said something similar to him, that we should expect something as stupid as this from his sister and not from him. But in the end, we hashed things out and I'm glad we found the culprit. So my first post finishes here. I wanted to say thank you to everyone that commented and got involved in my previous post. Your words really did help me and I'm very grateful for your help. You talked me through an honestly baffling experience and pushed me in the right direction. I started off with the wrong idea, but in the end, you were right. It was indeed one of my kids. Not the one we expected, but still. Thanks for everything, guys, and have a great day and night. Take care. Black Rogue says to the OP, well, at least you know your son uses a condom, even when he's drunk. I could forgive the inappropriate use of your room. OP says, even though I slagged him off quite a lot in this post, I am proud of him. I am really happy he's keeping it safe. Another commenter says, you should probably tell him this. He's probably quite embarrassed and it might help to hear that from you. OP said we had another talk yesterday and I told him how I feel about this whole thing. That even though what he did was rather idiotic, I'm not mad at him and I'm happy he did the right thing in coming clean about this. I've always had an easygoing relationship with my children and they know they can come to me or my wife with anything, hence why I guess he felt comfortable enough in talking to us about his sexual adventure. He's a great kid and I'm proud of how he handled this. I would have said and felt the same if my daughter was the one that did it. I mean, I'm glad they worked out, but the parents' bed, man. The parents' bed. Anyway, what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me, so thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care, and much love.